So we're going to go over Module 1. You'll find Module 1 in our course shell on the left-hand side under Modules. And you'll notice that Module 1 is set up the same way that the pre-module was, and that was by design. The pre-module is meant to be a tutorial to kind of walk you through the pattern of the course. So you'll see Module 1 has 5 major tasks. The overview document, which also includes your reading and resources, your self-check, 2 discussions, and your journal entry. So we're going to start with the module overview document. And you'll see when you pull this up, it walks you through the entire module. So Module 1 is a 4-week module. It starts week 2 and ends week 5. And we'll be discussing the visual arts and specifically how we perceive the visual arts. So we're looking at what perception is and how it's a process and really the psychology behind art. We start with these essential questions. What are the fundamental concerns of the arts? How is creative expression the highest form of communication? How is the 3D experience different from the 2D experience? And how does articulation, negative space, and focal areas affect our perception and our response? Our main topics are visual literacy and the ability to communicate visually, spatial awareness and the faculty of discernment, creative thought, expression, and formal analysis, and the relationships of place neurons, place fields, and cognitive mapping. So you'll see we start with visual literacy, which is this idea that we can read artwork just like we read text. So we can look at a painting or a musical composition or a theatrical performance, and we can decode information by looking for color and lighting and placement and proportion and patterns. And by decoding this information, we get to understand the meaning, just like we decode letters and words to understand content. Spatial awareness is this idea of how we understand the 3D world around us. Creative thought and expression are these ideas that we, all human beings, have the ability to be creative. And formal analysis is a way of analytically looking at the arts, specifically creative expression. And lastly, we look at the psychology of the arts, how our brain uses art to make meaning and purpose in the world. Here are your required studies. So these are the things that you're going to read in order to complete the self-check, the discussions, and the journal. Right? So we're going to read chapters 1 through 4 in our text. And then I've also included a handful of links to outside resources that help support those readings. So things like the theories by Dr. Betty Edwards, Blaskowitz's tool that allows anyone to be an artist, some discussions on Picasso and the golden ratio, and even this kind of fun little experiment called the marshmallow problem. So all of these are your required studies and are useful, like I said, the self-check and the journal. So you have these tasks. You've got your weekly discussions, you've got your self-check and your journal, all due at the end of the module. And the way this works is you can complete all of this work by the end of week 5. You can do it throughout the module, or you can wait to the end. Now, I recommend taking 1 or 2 tasks per week as opposed to just procrastinating to the end of the module. If you do that, if you do it 1 per week, it's very manageable, and you don't have to write as much. If you wait to the end, you have to do more writing. As you're working through the tasks, always go back and look at those main topics, the required studies. Make sure you're addressing these essential questions. And then as you're completing those tasks, double check your work. The last task that you're intended to do is the journal entry, which is a formal writing. And it's based on this graphic organizer. So all of my classes use a graphic organizer to help kind of sort out and keep our thoughts in order. And so when you look at any piece of artwork in Human 101, you're going to use a T matrix to kind of organize your thoughts. So what you do is, if it's a painting or a poem or a musical piece, you start by describing what it is. What do your senses tell you? Then you go to analysis, which is, what is the choices the artist made, or what are the choices the artist made? So artists do things with intent. So they choose a specific color or a type of pattern or a specific wording in order to create meaning. So what are those choices and how do you know? Then we interpret. So we look at the viewpoint of both the artist and the audience to understand the meaning, right? So interpretation is an inference or conclusion drawn from a specific point of view. So what you do is you decode the painting or you decode the work, and as you're going through it, You're trying to understand what the artist was trying to communicate. Then you judge it. And we're not really looking to judge it based on if it's good or if it's bad. We're looking to see, did the artist communicate his or her ideas in meaningful ways? All right. So that's the beginning of the overview of the module. Now, if you go into the module itself, you'll see once you've done the work of the module overview and done your readings, you can start your self-check, your discussions, and your journal. So let's take a look at the self-check. You'll see it's a multiple choice quiz. It's mostly concepts from the textbook, although sometimes it pulls from those other required studies. And you have 4 hours to take the quiz, and you have multiple chances. So if you mess up, you can go back and try again. Then the next thing you're to do are the discussions. Now remember, I said you can do the entire module in the last week of the module, although that's a lot of work and it can be very overwhelming. So I've broken it up to help kind of guide you along. So if you do the discussion during week 3 and week 5, you actually have less writing to do. So during week 3, if you choose to do your work on the vocabulary term, you don't have to write as much as if you waited to week 4 or week 5. So in week 3, you're going to choose a vocab term from our course materials. So that's the textbook or the multimedia resources. And it has to be a word of significance. So it has to be a very important word out of those texts. And then you're going to define it. Be sure to choose a different topic than your peers. So if 2 of you try to go over, say, Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, I will count only the first person. So it's first come, first serve. So don't duplicate another person's post. What you'll do is you'll choose this term, you'll define it, explain it to your peers in your own words, make sure it's substantive, and then you're going to look for an image online that corresponds to that word and embed that image. Please do not attach. If you attach, again, I won't grade it. Then you'll go find your peers' posts and respond to them with a comprehensive and a meaningful response, right? So please don't just repeat what they said, but what I'd like you to do is either agree or disagree or add to it or ask questions of why, ask yourself questions of why, those kinds of things. Okay. That is the first discussion for Module 1. The second discussion in Module 1 is the annotated bibliography. So very much like the first discussion, you're going to choose another concept. Now this concept comes from our required studies, and it should be specific. So avoid things like the arts or humanities or philosophy or literature, and really think about something specific like a type of artwork or an actual piece in our text. And then you're going to create an annotated bibliography. If you've never done that before, I would recommend clicking on this link to the Purdue OWL. The University of Purdue has a really great resource on writing, and it helps you understand how to do an annotated bibliography. Just like the last discussion, it must be different from your peers. So if you choose the same topic as one of your peers, you will not get graded. So once you've chose your topic and learned what an annotated bibliography is, you'll go to something like Google Scholar or the college's library and find an academic journal or article. So it has to be a scholarly source, and you're going to read that source and then create your summary and your analysis of the article, and then share that in the forum. Then your peers are going to go in and they're going to look at each other's works and estimate and evaluate what they've done. Just like the last forum, please make sure you're not using filler, but you're actually addressing the specific topic. Explain why you agree or disagree with the author's ideas, and make sure it's substantive. And the last thing you're going to do in the module is the journal. Now, like I said when I was going over the pre-module document, you're going to look at the graphic organizer that's at the bottom there, and it explains to you how you can outline your analysis for an artwork, an object, an artifact out of our text. You're going to pre-write, write, and then rewrite following these steps. And then you're going to submit your journal, which is a formal essay, but it's short, it's only 300 words, to Canvas, okay? And then I use this rubric to analyze your work, right? And this is actually the same rubric I use for all writing assignments in the course. So I'm looking for your quality, and I'm also looking for your quantity, that you're meeting the word and exceeding the word count, and also that you're writing things of substance, okay? So you start with this object or artifact out of the text. You go through the graphic organizer to outline your thoughts. Then you're going to write that up in a formal essay, pre-write, write, and rewrite, and then submit. There'll be more information coming on about your journal topics and choices as the weeks to come, so be on the lookout for those. All right, so that wraps up Module 1, our 5 tasks, and the things you need to complete in the next 4 weeks. If you've got questions, please reach out. I look forward to reading through your work. Good luck, and we'll talk soon.